The label's sort of mission was always to document a particular scene. In that regard, we're not like a traditional label that's sort of looking for something to propel us forward. This is the office, Dischord Direct. We do all the production out of this office for the records. We also distribute the records out of this office. We sell directly to mom and pop shops all over the U.S. This office is across the street from the original Dischord house, and where the label first started, basically in the basement. Dischord House was simply a group house that Ian and Jeff and a bunch of other guys had, and a lot of the bands practiced there. It's just where everybody lived. So when the label started, it was just guys, you know, like gluing together their own Xeroxed record covers, and whoever was hanging out at the house would help glue them, put them together. And but over the years, as the label became less of just a band putting out their own stuff and more, you know, functioning as a more official label, it started to take over the house. What was sort of invented in the early 80s didn't really have a template. The hardcore scene in DC was very sort of like self-invented, and obviously we took a lot of input from other things, but it was kind of its own thing. To keep the kind of like sort of revolutionary aspect to it, it had to reinvent itself, because as soon as something becomes defined in one way, it becomes stale. And so I think every generation of kids, every different scene of kids, every different batch of kids reinvents punk rock for themselves, and it may contain elements from who they listened to before, and it may not. Get a guy, you know, with nothing but a keyboard and, you know, and a megaphone making something that's more punk than the Sex Pistols ever did. I mean, punk is an idea. It's just, it's sort of an ethical, very personal, ethical way of conducting yourself, I think, and that can really mean anything. I mean, for, you know, for some people, it's about outrage. For some people, it's about rage. For me, it's about sort of channeling outrage and into something more positive. And you know, I think it's about questioning status quo, and whether that be your own personal status quo, or whether that be a political status quo. I mean, nobody would have imagined when we started that, you know, 15, 20 years, 25, 30 years later, people would still be interested in this stuff. But they are.